Hey guys, if you haven't been following the news with Netflix animation and all that, well, Netflix has been killing off and canceling a lot of projects from left to right, from feature films to original series. And it wasn't just like a one-time announcement. As the weeks go by, you just hear a new project or new property just get canceled, and then a week goes by and another project gets canceled, therefore laying off a lot of artists. I have friends who have worked on shows like Amphibian and The Owl House, and now they're being able to show off all the hard work that they put in and share them proudly. While that's happening, a lot of my friends have gotten their show canceled and they have put in work that they'll never be able to show to the public. Now, as someone who's been involved in a lot of canceled projects, and I've been involved in about 2 to 3 canceled projects at Netflix myself, I know how devastating and heartbreaking that can be. I also know how frustrating and how that alienates my relationship with the industry. It's become so common that I got used to it over time. And that's why I tend to work on personal projects or side projects at the same time. Because I know that's probably one of the only things I can grasp on that fulfills my creative needs. And that it may open opportunities later down the line. Ever since the cancellation of numerous projects, a lot of artists have been calling out to start their own projects, start independent projects, just make their own stuff. And I'm all for that. There are industry artists trying to start platforms where people can crowdfund or fund their projects by their fan base. But based on my experience, I will also talk about why that might not be the best option, the problems that come with it, and my personal experiences with it. When I quit my full-time job from Netflix back in August 2021, I quit because I wanted to see what I could do outside of the industry. I thought that I would make a lot of independent animation. I would also kickstart a studio and have it running full-time. However, I spent most of that time self-reflecting and basically getting another perspective, and honestly, my mental health is so much better. But coming back to independent projects, and I told myself that I would just make stuff on my own and I would just be a machine and keep making things on my own behalf. And I also wanted to keep things low profile, only put it out when it's ready to be shown. But I also found some problems with that. The experience of making an independent project all by yourself can be quite lonely, and having to make all the shots and decisions by yourself is highly taxing. Every time I work or lead on a personal project, I kind of doubt myself a lot, especially comparing my works to others. Depending on the scale of these projects, in most cases, you're in it for the long haul, and you really have to be your own cheerleader. There's a certain level of madness where you're working on something day to day, being your own cheerleader and being the only person that tells you that this is worth finishing. And in most cases, there's not really a monetary benefit to it, just working on your own project. I mean, sure, you can set up a Patreon or some crowdfunding system, but I think that's a world of its own, and it's not really that beneficial if you don't really have a following. Not many people that I know would want to go through that, and honestly, it's something that I would never want to enforce on people. Not everyone has the drive or ambition to work on a personal project on the side or after leaving their full-time job. And that is totally fine. If you were to ask me, should I go full independent now that these studios are kind of just letting us go and failing us, my answer would be maybe, but there's a better solution. And I learned something about the whole Netflix cancellation of animation projects, and I'll get to that very soon and why it's so important. I was reading the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and there's a bit in that book where they talk about dependent, independent, and interdependent people. And I'm definitely going to relate this to animation or just passion projects overall. Dependent people are people who just can't move forward unless someone else does something for them. An example of this would be a lot of those random people messaging you on Instagram saying, hey, I have an awesome show idea. I don't have the skills to animate it, but I have a brilliant story idea. Can you make my whole show? Those people are dependent. In most cases, dependent people are the cog in a machine. So this could just be a hired hand for a project. Independent people, however, can do things on their own. They can make a project from scratch to the final product, they can call the shots, and they know how to get things done. The independent way sounds absolutely fantastic when you first hear about it, but at the same time, it can also be quite lonely, tiring, and taxing. So let me talk about the interdependent mindset, and the way I would describe this is it's more of a collective mindset. It's like you can still be independent, but you also acknowledge the strengths and weaknesses of you and everyone in your community. So an example of this is I know that for this animation project I'm working on, I can paint the backgrounds myself, but I probably won't do a great job at it compared to another friend who specializes in painting backgrounds. So I would bring him on board instead. I would be a little fearless and a little less precious about my own stuff that I'm really passionate about and give it to someone else to give their own take. And getting to that mindset, especially if you're super close-minded or super precious about your own stuff, is not easy to get into. But at the end of the day, it is so much worth it. And how interdependence and community plays such a huge role in our industry and the talents among us. After Netflix started canceling a lot of their animation projects, I just realized why community is so important and how it plays such a big role in our field. When people started getting let go, a lot of artists would reach out and help each other find work, recommend each other to other recruiters, other studios. It's actually quite powerful. And why community is so important for people who don't really want to be an independent creator, but would still want to be able to work in the industry and still make some stable income. One time I was having a chat with Patrick McHale. So for those who don't know Patrick McHale, he directed and made Over the Garden Wall. And at CalArts, once you're about to graduate from their animation program, the faculty will get together, they'll review your work, they'll ask you questions, and they'll talk about and give you advice on what your future is within the industry or you as an artist. And from what I remember from what he told me, the faculty told him that if he wasn't fit for industry work, he should really invest in his writing and his comics and keep working on that until he builds a small community or a small fan base, and then keep making more until that community grows, keep making more until that community becomes so good, becomes big enough where you're big enough to sell a show or to pursue projects with the backing that you have. Look at VivziePop, for example, the creator of Helluva and Hazbin Hotel. While people think that she's independent, I think she's very interdependent, relying on the skills of other people, other talents, other artists, to give them their own best for the worlds that she created. And look where it's gotten her now. She's also someone that cherishes the community, her fan base, and the people that work with her. And if you're able to achieve that, you're bound to make something that can rival with studio work. I know when I work on personal projects or independent projects, I definitely want to show it to the community. I definitely want to show it to people. Sometimes I will put it out there so I can get feedback, I can get support, I can discover new talent. I know there are times where I see myself kind of worrying when, I'm not making enough money, when my tutorial sales aren't doing as well, or I need to find ways to make active income, but I definitely feel much safer with a community. Another great thing about this community is that people have been more open, vocal, and they're sharing ideas, thoughts relating to their work, their industry, and their emotional health. I think more so, and nowadays people have been more open and vocal about their mental health and their internal struggles. I think people have become a lot more responsive and clear about talking about their overall feelings. Communities led to Discord servers and groups being started. Whether it's public or private, there's always a place where people can go in and to meet other like-minded people. You can even find new faces and connections to collaborate on a new project together. I know that I've built a following in a community. People like some of the knowledge or some of the tips that I share. So when I teach, I know that there will be students that would like to take my class. And most of the time, I learn new things from my students. So earlier in this video, I said that going fully independent might not be the best solution, and I still stand by that. Not everyone wants that, and a lot of people want that dependency and that security, and that's totally fine. But if you're someone who's like saying, hey, I want to start making stuff, I don't want to depend on a studio or a company to make things anymore, I want to just make things on the get-go, then shoot. Try doing things independently by yourself. Make things short, make things fast, give yourself a strict deadline, and wrap up when that deadline hits. Then you'll start to realize your creative process, you'll have a better understanding of it, and you'll learn what your weaknesses are and what your strengths are. And let's say whatever you have, you want to just grow that, you want to enlarge in that. Then you can start adapting an interdependent mindset where you bring people on board, you realize their strengths that can fill your weaknesses, that they're the ones to fill your dark soul with light. But the important thing here is if you want to be more interdependent and you want to make something big out of your own stuff or other people's stuff, learn how to talk to other people, be compassionate. And however you decide to do it, pay them. And don't be mad if someone doesn't think the same way as you do. Like if someone is not as independent or a go-getter as much as you are, that's totally fine. Not everyone has to be like that or like you. But the important thing here is depending on whether you're a dependent person or an independent person or an interdependent person, community matters. And hey, I'm trying to do my part into becoming a bit more open and to reach out to the community as much as possible. Anyways, that's all I want to talk about. Bye! Interested in learning hand-drawn animation or learning how to finish an animated shot from beginning to end? Have a look at the store where you'll find the complete Introduction to 2D Animation video course, tutorials, and other resources. Learn classical animation approaches, drawing, lectures, techniques, and other process videos. Visit the store through the link in the description below.